This is an interface in Grid3 for block-based coding. We use the inbuilt browser. If you've never used it before, there'll be a cookie notice. You can tap deny, but you also don't need to deal with this because we'll be loading our own website. So we're going to load an example project first to look at how to do the coding. So this is loading a microbit project that draws a smiley face and a sad face on the microbit itself. The very first time you load this interface, you're going to need to enable Block's keyboard controls, and then it will have a little info pane that you can hit escape to get out. You only need to do that the first time. You might take the opportunity now to zoom in or out of the interface to an appropriate size for the individual, so they're not going to have to be directly clicking on anything. Everything is done through grid cells, so the only consideration here is visual accessibility, of whether they can see the individual things and whether they can read the text. I quite like to zoom into a point where the simulator of the microbit has popped out to the bottom right, but you can still see the word names on the categories in the toolbox on the left. But you can do whatever is appropriate for your user, and then when you're ready, hit start coding. We're going to look at the example code first. I'm just going to move my mouse out the way because we're just using eye gaze. So you can see there's a yellow highlight around the forever block. This means that this block is selected, and if we press the down arrow, we go down to the show icon smiley face. So we're telling the computer, show a smiley face icon, and then pause for 100 milliseconds. Show a sad face icon, and pause for 100 milliseconds. And you can see the result of the program, so what the computer is doing, on the simulator. So let's think about what we think would happen if we delete the show icon sad face. We can use the delete key here, and then have a look as it loads the program to see if that's what you expected. We've now just got a smiley face being shown. We've got a more button here, which has some extra functionality, one level deep, and there's an undo there, so I can pop that back in, and now I've got my sad face and my happy face again. We can also change the options in any block, so here's a drop down, so you go right to get to it and you hit enter to get the field editor, which gives you all of the options for this field in the block. So I'm going to choose a giraffe icon. So as it reloads, I can look to the microbit and see a giraffe and then a sad face, giraffe, sad face, and so on. Let's adjust the pause time as well. So this pause is 100 milliseconds at the moment. You can use down arrow to choose a different time. I'm going to go for 2 seconds delay, and I hit enter to confirm. So I see a giraffe, it stays up for 2 seconds, and then I see a sad face, and it just stays up briefly. Let's duplicate this block. So there's a duplicate cell, and this puts it into move mode. So now you use the arrow keys to choose where you want to put it in the code. So I'm going to put it right at the end, and I'm going to take a copy of the pause button as well. And if you want to enter move mode for an existing block, you just need to navigate to it and hit the move button and then move it around with the arrow keys, or hit escape to get out of it. Let's delete everything here. Now we've got a completely clear workspace, we're going to jump to the toolbox to grab some new blocks. So the toolbox has a number of categories on the left with different types of blocks available. So we can use the down arrow to go through the categories. In this case, we want a block that's in the input category. So once it's selected, we can use the right arrow to go to the right pane, and we're getting a block called on button A pressed. So this is where we write instructions for the computer to say when button A is pressed, this is what we need you to do. And it's placed this here, there's not really anywhere else to move it to, so we hit enter to confirm. And we're going to put a block in here to tell the computer what to do when button A is pressed. We'll use the show icon block again, so we go across to the right hand pane, down to show icon, and we'll just hit enter to confirm, enter again to confirm where it's going, and we're going to keep the heart icon for this one. But let's have a look at how we test this. This code only runs when button A is pressed, so we jump to the simulator, and in the simulator you're going to have to use tab controls, so going between the links, so next link to go between the buttons. So you can see button A on the left, and we hit enter, and that's pressing button A for us and showing us a heart. You can use next link to navigate all of these, or you can jump to the links page to see buttons for each of these if you want to quickly access one of the options along the bottom of the simulator. Let's add some more code to this. So we're going to jump to the toolbox. We're going to find another input block, and we're going to get instructions for what happens if you press button B. So the block still says on button A pressed. We confirm where we want it to go, and you'll notice the other block gets greyed out because we can't have two sets of instructions for on button A. So we change the button letter to on button B pressed, and now any code that we put inside on button B will happen when we press on button B. You'll notice that depending where you are, where you've been navigating to with the arrow keys, will impact where blocks are inserted. So we're going to jump to the toolbox to get a new block. We're going to use a musical block here. So we're going to go quite a long way down in the toolbox. The first melody one is quite fun to define your own music, but it's a bit more involved in terms of access to tab between the different options. So we're going to go for a simple one that's right near the bottom under the microbit v2 section. This will only work if you have a microbit v2 or you are just using the online simulator. So here's the block, play giggle until done. And it's placed it where our highlight was at the time. So we're going to use the arrow keys to move it to the right place. So here it would happen when we press button A, and here it's going to happen when we press button B. So let's change the sound. We're going to choose the happy sound, and let's jump to the simulator to test it out. So we're going to go through the links until we find button A, and this still shows the heart for us. And go to button B, and we get a nice electronic happy sound. So that's the end of this video. Please check out my other videos for more examples of coding using Grid3 and MakeCode.